We are going to talk about unplanned work today. And first of all, I mean, is it even okay? Like you go through sprint planning and you thought you got everything figured out, and then something is a surprise right outside of sprint planning. Jason, what are you thinking on this? You wrote the blog. We got this whole big old thing on our website about it. What's this all about?
Yeah, I really wrote this because I'm addressing a myth that once you go through sprint planning, the sprint backlog is like locked, set in stone. This is what it is, and we've committed to it. And it's a myth because we surely commit to the sprint goal. Like that is something that the Scrum team does in sprint planning. But the items that we're going to accomplish on the sprint backlog are really our best forecast of how we're going to achieve that sprint goal. And so is unplanned work a thing in Scrum? It certainly can be. It's not ideal, but there's really two types of it. Sometimes while we're pursuing a sprint goal, we discover new work that we didn't know about at sprint planning. There's just either something we overlooked, or maybe it was something unknowable until we rolled up our sleeves and started building whatever it is we're building. It's absolutely a good idea to adapt your sprint backlog and add that thing to the sprint backlog as long as you can still achieve your sprint goal. Another type of unplanned work is something that's completely unrelated. These are often presented as emergencies, and I use air quotes because sometimes they are true emergencies. Sometimes there's been a credit card leak or some key infrastructure is down, or there's just something major happening and it's like this can't wait till next sprint. The team that is responsible for fixing it is also happens to be working on their sprint backlog, and we just have to do some adaptations. Or sometimes they're not emergencies and there's just something that somebody wants and they're treating it like an emergency. But either way, as long as we can commit to the sprint goal, we do have some flexibility to bring it into the sprint backlog, as long as we're doing so with transparency and we're able to, work together as a team to do that.
All right. Well, then my next question here is who gets to decide on this? Is it the product owner coming up to the team and saying, "Hey guys, you don't have enough work in progress, so here you go. Here's some more things." Who gets to make
Yeah.
this decision?
Oftentimes I'll hear, well, it's up to the product owner because the product owner gets to decide on the priority of items that gets done. And that would be true if we weren't talking about adding it to the current sprint backlog. You see, the developers get to own their sprint backlog. They get to decide how much work is achievable for the sprint. And if the product owner comes to them and says, hey, you have to do this instead, and you still have to achieve the sprint goal that we've committed to, that could put the developers in an untenable situation. So I would hope this is a whole team discussion, but ultimately the developers get to decide, does this go on the sprint backlog that they've already planned at sprint planning?
You created this whole model called the 5 Ws of unplanned work, and I was hoping you could kind of walk us through some of this. It's all on that blog on the website, of course,
Right.
but can you tell the readers and viewers what this is all about?
Yeah. This is a model that I actually worked with a client of mine a few years ago on because they were in this situation where they would continually plan a sprint and then start working on it. And then a day or two into the sprint, these emergencies would come out of the woodwork. And they they were just spending so much of their time on unplanned work. We use this model to kind of whittle down what's truly an emergency that has to get done right now and what are some things that could wait. And so the first W of the 5 Ws is really asking why. Why is this unplanned work coming to us in the first place? Do we even understand the value of what's being asked for? What's going to happen, if we don't do that? Who is this affecting? How many people are affected? What's the impact of it to the organization? This is really a business question of like, where is this coming from and why is this important? The next W is there a workaround? A lot of times these emergencies are trying to fix a problem. There's a customer issue, or this thing is broken over here, or there's something has gone wrong, which is why it's an emergency. And, in the short term, to preserve our adherence to the sprint goal, perhaps the right thing is, okay, it's not ideal, but temporarily we can do X, Y, and Z instead of spending the team's time to create a real fix. And then next sprint, we can actually plan for it and put it in our sprint backlog without, jeopardizing a sprint goal. So is there a workaround? And if so, what's the impact of that workaround is the next W. Third, what if we just wait? That's the W number 3 is wait. What happens if we just say, no, we can't add this emergency item to our sprint backlog? What happens? Are we going to lose a client? Are we going to lose a customer? Are we unable to sell anything? I mean, just what is the business impact, and just play that out, because sometimes the answer is, you know what? We've got a new sprint starting in a week. if we wait, there might be some unpleasantness, but we can survive it. And it's better to wait and deal with that unpleasantness and meet our current sprint goal than to jeopardize our current sprint goal and try to get all this done at the same time. The fourth one is where, and where means priority. So I want to be really clear on this one. The product owner does get to prioritize this if it goes into the product backlog. And they get to, order it where it should go in relation to all the other items in the product backlog. So we're not outsourcing that to anybody. But what we are saying is, where would this lie in terms of priority from the perspective of the person asking for it? So someone's coming to me asking for an emergency item get added to the current sprint. I'm going to say, okay, here's all the things we're currently working on. Where would you place this in terms of priority? Not allowing them to make that decision for us, but just helping them think through the fact that there are already things in flight. And if you're asking me to put this at the top of my list, by definition, you're saying this is more important than everything else. And that just might not be true. So let's zoom out for a minute, take a look at the whole picture, and maybe we'll come to the conclusion that, as important as this thing is, there are other more important things in flight right now. Maybe this should wait, or maybe we should, deprioritize it. And then finally, the last W, kind of cheating because it's 2 words, what drops? So if you've planned a full sprint, which most Scrum teams do, most Scrum teams don't, plan, 1 week of work for a 2-week sprint. If you take on unplanned work, especially unplanned work that's unrelated to the sprint goal, it's very likely that you may not get to something that you had planned on doing. And so before bringing on that new item, we want to really think through the trade-offs here and say, okay, if we bring on this new work, what's going to drop from our plan? What might we not get to? And crucially, we should only do that if we can still meet our sprint goal. Sometimes there are some things that, if we don't get to these couple items, we can still meet our sprint goal. And now we have a trade-off to discussion to make. If the answer to what drops is, man, we can't drop anything from our sprint backlog and still meet our sprint goal, well, that's a really clear indication we shouldn't add this unplanned work. So taking these 5 W's one at a time, and by the way, they don't have to be in that order. You can, ask them in any order you want, but I think starting with why, what's the value of this unplanned work? Is there a workaround in place for us to just push off the real solution for a little while to the next sprint? Can this item just simply wait? Where would it relate in terms of order and priority? And what would drop if we do add it? This can help us whittle down what might be some false emergencies that could really just go in the product backlog for future sprints, and then focus on the true emergencies that we can take action on as long as we're still committed to meeting our sprint goal.
Sure. It sounds like a big theme here is that sprint goal. And so you're looking through the lens of the sprint goal when choosing which W or which many of these W's you apply.
Right.
I'm curious if any of the viewers have any comments because, on maybe H's or K's or V's, drop those down there if you got anything better than W's.
Right.
But
bonus points if it starts with X.
focus on that sprint goal. If you've really got to take on unplanned work, run it through this filter. And we hope this has been valuable to you. So thanks.